Alright guys, so let's do another tag video, which Drew from Hazen at Devon Graham's channel, it did a favorite in the franchise tag, and he said for everybody to freely do it as well, and I thought I might as well do this because it's a very interesting idea of doing your favorite in each film in a franchise. And I'm not gonna lie that some of my choices will be the first movie, but not all of them, so there are gonna be some interesting ones that you'll see throughout that I feel differently about, like picking first. Because there are some franchises where I'm like, oh, well, the first one's good, but I like this one way more. So I've got about 15 to 20 different franchises I'm going to say right here and say my favorite film in each franchise. So let's start out with one of the biggest franchises, Halloween. And I'm going to give this one a tie, actually. It's between Halloween 1 and Halloween 2. And this is hard because I love both of these movies, but if I had to choose, I can't pick one. The first one is incredibly one of the best movies ever, one of the best horror movies ever, but Halloween 2 is one of my absolute favorite sequels, one of the movies I've watched the most in my life. I just love both of these movies, and I can't choose. I know that's kind of a cop-out, but man, and I think there's one other franchise where I do have a tie as well, but this is a franchise where I do love almost all these movies, or like all these movies. So it's so hard to choose, but for the Halloween franchise, I can't choose between Halloween 1, 1978, and Halloween 2, 1981. So that's my pick for the Halloween franchise. For Saw, it would be the original Saw, the one that is, to me, easily the best made, and easily the most interesting of the bunch, and I really enjoy the original Saw. Psycho, the original Psycho. This one, of course, it was hard to choose between Psycho 2. It really was. Between this and Psycho 2, Psycho 2 is fantastic and so great. Such a very underrated movie, but the original is just the original. It's one of the best movies ever made. I love every shot of this movie. I love everything about it. I love all the characters. I love the two kills. I love the character development. I love everything about the artistry of this movie. This is just one of the best movies ever made. For Friday the 13th, let's pick my favorite of the Friday franchise, and this is one that if you know me, you'll know that I like this one, but my favorite Friday movie is Part 5, A New Beginning. Part 5 is just so insane and so hilarious and so over the top that it is the most entertaining and rewatchable Friday movie for me. Love Friday 5. For the Chucky franchise, this is very hard to choose between Curse of Chucky, Bride of Chucky, and my number one, Child's Play 2. Child's Play 2 is the one I chose of the three, but it was so hard to choose because I love all three of these movies. But Child's Play 2, I feel like, it's the one I saw the first time. Like, this is the first one I saw in the franchise. I've seen it the most. I just love everything about it. I can recite this movie I can recite every line from this movie. I can point out everything about this movie. I think it's one of my favorite movies. It's one of the horror movies I've seen the most. It's just like Halloween 2, 1981. Whenever I started watching horror, Halloween 2 and Child's Play 2 were two of the movies that I rewatched over and over again, and I love Child's Play 2. For the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's not really a competition besides the second one, which I really love too, but the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of the best horror movies ever made. A movie that has no gore in it, but is one of the scariest movies ever made. Can't say much about this one. Love the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Here's the other one that's a tie, and it was so hard to choose again, but I love both of these movies equally. Sleepaway Camp 1 and Sleepaway Camp 2, because these both are so different in each of their executions, but they're so great. The original is such a great, cheesy, but really, really well done horror movie, and the second one is truly one of the most entertaining movies ever made, with Pamela Springsteen as Angela. Like, she is one of the best characters ever, and I love her in that movie. She's got one of the best performances. She's one of my favorites ever in any horror movie. So it was hard to choose, but those two are my tie for Sleepaway Camp franchise. For the Alien franchise, I picked Aliens, and again, it's like two masterpieces. Choosing between two masterpieces, Alien and Aliens. But Aliens, I pick over because Alien, while it is a fantastically made movie, Aliens, I think, just is the effective build-up to Alien and Aliens. Like, if they're both great companion pieces, they're both perfect, but if I had to choose one, it would be Aliens. For the Hannibal Lecter franchise, for my pick, it is The Silence of the Lambs. A pretty easy answer in the franchise. The other ones I think are fine, but they're not like anything near the spectacular like level the original Silence of the Lambs is. I mean, Manhunter is good, and Red Dragon I liked, but everything else is just kind of whatever. Like, this is just a franchise that, of course, the Silence of the Lambs is gonna be the winner. For Puppet Master, the franchise, it's not really hard to choose. The only one I really like is Part 3, and the one I picked is The Littlest Reich. Those two movies I like a lot, but The Littlest Reich I pick over 3, even though 3 is great too. The Littlest Reich has some of the most over-the-top silly gore that is so entertaining, and I love the fact that this movie is just exploitation at its finest in like a horror movie. Like, it is just ridiculous amounts of gore, and it is ridiculous with the kills. They are so hilarious and so gross, but they are so effective. For the Scream franchise, Scream 2 is my favorite Scream movie. While you can argue the first one is better made, Scream 2 to me just furthers the story in a way where you're so interested in all these characters, and the way that they bring in the new killers in this movie and how they are just the continuation of the last movie, even though the killers are dead from the other movie. And I love that. I think that's incredible. And I think that this just has great humor and great gore and great character progression. And it is my favorite Scream movie, even though the first one and this one are on the same level. For the Conjuring franchise, we've got like 7 or 8 of these movies now. It's easily The Conjuring 2. And I love the first Conjuring, and I really loved Annabelle Creation. And I like Annabelle Comes Home, and the other ones are just kind of in between. But The Conjuring 2, I think, is just an effectively made movie where it really uses that old school type of filmmaking for a horror movie very well. Even though it has CGI in it, I think it works very well. It's got characters you can very much root for in a way that it makes this movie so much more impactful and more suspenseful because you care about these characters. And really just a great movie overall, and a franchise that's pretty solid. For the Evil Dead franchise, I pick Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 2, while the original, again, is incredible, Evil Dead 2 is my favorite because I feel like this is the most watchable and most entertaining. Even though Army of Darkness is great and the remake is great too, this is my favorite one. I can't really say much about it. It's just my favorite one out of the 4. For the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, New Nightmare is actually my favorite. Kind of controversial, I guess, opinion, even though New Nightmare is like considered a good sequel. But I think that it is my favorite. I think it's the most effective Freddy. I think it's the best performance by Heather Langenkamp. I think that even though it repeats the first movie in a lot of instances, but it's made too because it's like a movie within a movie. I think it's just a very good movie on acting and filmmaking and directing. Like, it's just a really great movie, and I really, really love this one overall in the whole franchise. For the Prom Night franchise, Prom Night 2, Hello Mary Lou is my favorite out of the 5 Prom Night movies, if you count the shitty remake. But Prom Night 2, Hello Mary Lou is such an interesting movie that, to me, is very underrated because while it has a budget restraint to it, like, it really works in being a very creepy supernatural movie, but it's really funny, and it's a supernatural slasher too. So I think that in those two genres mix is a really fun time. It's so fun, it's so entertaining, it's so unique, and it works so well. While the first Prom Night was kind of generic, even though I like it, it's kind of generic, and the sequels are too. This one, I think, is just so interesting in how unique it is and underrated in the franchise and in horror movies. I think this is a cool movie that should be seen more by other people. Then my last one would be the Phantasm franchise, and I pick Phantasm 2. Now, Phantasm 2, I think, while the first one is great, and then after that, it just kind of goes, like, 3 is fine, and then after that, no, I don't like 4 or 5. Phantasm 2, I think, is the best sequel. I think it's just the most interesting. I like that it's an older Michael. I like that it's them on the run, and I think it's just a fascinating movie, and I think it's really interesting that they go this sequel route where, like, to me, it's just an interesting sequel that works on a lot of levels. While the first one is a great movie, this one is the more entertaining and more watchable one, and that's why I pick Phantasm 2 as my favorite in the Phantasm franchise. So that is my favorite in the franchise tag video. If you guys want to do this, do it down below as well. Make your own video. Tell me down below what you would pick if you don't make your own video. So that is it, and thank you guys so much for watching.